time on it. You know, they don't equate, or they don't see that their time is what's really their. There's those types of people, and then there are the types of people who I've had to learn to be this way. The types of people who don't want to equate their time, which is the most valuable asset that we have. You can never get more. You can never get time back, ever, 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 ever. One of my favorite authors, one of my favorite mentors. I wish he was actually like physically my mentor. Is Peter Drucker, and he talks about how a lot of us think that money is the most scarce resource, but it's not. You can always find ways to make money. Really, time is our most scarce resource. And so the second type of person is the type who does not want to trade their time for dollars. They want to build things. They want to make sure that every single bit of their time is spent building or creating or hiring people, finding people to do it for them, finding people to create assets that constantly make them money, or to build a team that becomes an asset that constantly and consistently makes money over months and months and months, sometimes years. So when I had the opportunity to do this webinar, when I got so many emails that literally I was forced to do this. Normally I don't do webinars this quickly. I had to bring one of the most amazing outsource gurus I have ever met. In fact, he's completely changed my life. So since 2011, 2012, I've been outsourcing to the Philippines. I've been doing outsourcing. I started with Elance when it was still around, and I went from doing Elance to learning how to go and do different ways of outsourcing to the Philippines. And I was like, wow, this is great. And then I learned how to build systems, and that was cool and everything like that. But holy moly, when I met Gonzalo and I learned how to outsource the way he does, it took my business to a whole new level. I currently have a staff of 6 virtual assistants, 3 working on drop shipping, 3 working on other things like development and so on. And they're all making me money, okay? And it's in a way where I literally don't have to do anything if I didn't want to. And I do spend a couple of hours a month doing work on the things that I have, but I don't have to if I don't want to. And that's why I wanted to bring Gonzalo on right now, because he is going to rock your world when it comes to how to find the best people, and most importantly, the people who are going to build your business for you. So Gonzalo, this is your show, man. Thank you so much for being here, and take it away.
Great. Well, thank you, Dean. And guys, thank you for being here today. I'm really excited to actually share kind of what I've learned from my many years of outsourcing. And by the end of the webinar, my goal is to actually make you not only an expert about outsourcing, but actually show you how you can outsource in such a way that your employees pay for themselves. So they actually make you money instead of costing you money. All right, so let's get started. The first thing about outsourcing is no matter what you think you know about outsourcing, I'm going to be sharing with you some things that are going to blow you away. And one of the big things is, why do I need to outsource? Most of us take on too much in our lives. Why is that? A lot of us have a belief that when we need something done, we have to do it ourselves. It takes a lot to shift that mindset. I'm going to be sharing with you some things today that are literally going to shift the way you see your reality. So we're going to have kind of like a matrix moment. We should call this the matrix webinar. You're going to see things in a way that the majority of people don't see them. So no matter how much you know about outsourcing, what I'm going to be sharing with you will change your life. And the reason I can say that is because I've seen it happen to thousands of people now, that they thought they had to do everything themselves. that they weren't ready to outsource right now, or they weren't making enough money to outsource. Once I shared with them this information, their life changed. And I'm going to share a story of why I'm sharing this information. I was at a marketing event that had a lot of business owners, and a lot of them were complaining about their business. They didn't have enough time. They were doing everything themselves. They were pretty much stressed out. They lost that joy of being in business for themselves. Particularly, there was a gentleman, his name is Mark Ensign. He is a CEO of an Inc. 500 company. Now, what that means is he owns a very successful, big business. And he started sharing some frustrations about his business with me. So I decided to sit down with him for a few hours. And I showed him how to outsource and automate his business. Now, 2 months later, I hear back from him. And he tells me, Gonzalo, wow, my profits have gone through the roof. I have more free time than I ever had. And the reason I was able to do this is because of the things you shared with me. And he told me I had to share this with people. And that is why I'm teaching this today. And my goal is to have that kind of impact in your business. All right, so let's see how many people know who this gentleman is. John D. Rockefeller. What company was he the founder of? Let's see who gets it here. All right, so a lot of answers coming across the board. Absolutely. He founded Standard & Oil. Thanks, Ken. Standard & Oil is one of the biggest companies in the world, and it was so big it had to be broken apart. You may recognize some of the companies that came from Standard & Oil, like names like Chevron, Exxon, Mobil, BP. All those companies were Standard & Oil. So John was interviewed and asked, what was the number one most important business principle you've ever learned in your life? The one that had the most impact in your business. And this is what he said: I would rather earn 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own efforts. Now, that really hit home with me. Now remember, this was the richest man who ever lived. And he recognized that the most important principle he ever learned was to actually get other people to do the work for him instead of him having to do all the work. Now, if it's good enough for the richest man who ever lived, then it's good enough for us, right? So in the next 60 minutes, I'm going to show you how to overcome the biggest obstacles in outsourcing. So now I'm going to share a little bit about myself. I'm considered a hiring automation expert. I've been outsourcing since 1996. I've interviewed thousands of outsourced employees and managed hundreds of my own employees. So now I want to share with you some outsourcing myths that hold all of us back. All right, so the first myth. Now, guys, if any of you are guilty of this, go ahead and type in yes in the chat box. No one else can do this better than I can. I get it, right? We're all control freaks. Now think about this. There's over 7 billion people on this planet. There's gotta be at least one person that can do this as good as you can, or maybe even better, right? If you're guilty of this, go ahead and type in yes in the chat box. Okay, yes, 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 absolutely. The chat box is going crazy. Myth number 2, it will take too much time to teach someone else how to do it. Now I'm gonna run you through a little scenario here. Let's say you have some common tasks that you do every week. And it takes you about 5 hours a week to do those tasks. So let's go ahead and multiply that by 5 hours a week times 52 weeks a year. That's 260 hours in a year that you spend on those tasks. Now let's go ahead and take those 260 hours that you spend on this task and divide it by 40. That is how many hours you have in a week, working hours during the week, right? So if you take 260 divided by 40, you get 6.5. That's roughly 6.5 weeks in a year that you spend on that task. So if you outsource roughly about 5 hours of work per week, you get roughly 6.5 weeks back. That's roughly 1.5 months of extra time. What can you do with an extra month and a half back in your life? You can take vacations, exercise, spend time with the kids. That's the thing. Most people don't look at their time that way. Now, actually, one of the best ways to learn how to outsource is to create systems. Now, let me ask you a question. What is one of the biggest, most successful companies on earth? They have restaurants all over the world, and if you eat it too much, it can make you fat. Let's see who the first one is that comes up with the answer. Allison, Linda, absolutely. Mickey D's. Now, McDonald's is a multi-billion-dollar business. It has documented every single process in their company. They can literally take a person from the street, train them in an afternoon, and by the next day, they can be running the whole restaurant. Now, these two books will teach you how to create systems in your business if you don't know how to do it. Now, the third myth is I can handle it all. I have enough time, I can do it all. Now, most people have the delusion that once they get enough business, then they'll outsource. Now, if you talk to most successful people, they'll tell you that they really didn't reach the level of success that they currently have until they started outsourcing and building a team. So it's kind of like one of those things like, putting the cart before the horse, right? Once you have people doing the tasks that you hate doing, that you don't want to do, that you should be doing, that's when those tasks get done. And that's when you start seeing huge success in your business. Now, when you end up doing all the tasks yourself, guess what ends up happening? Things start falling through the cracks, right? I'm going to share with you a story. I remember a while back, I closed one of the biggest deals, and this is when I was a lot younger. I remember getting my first paycheck for a deal I closed for $10,000, and I thought I was the king of the world. And I remember taking my wife out on a nice date, and halfway through that date, my phone rang, and I answered it. And it was a pissed off customer, and they were mad because I promised them I would send them a proposal, and I forgot because I had too much on my plate. And I remember I went from being completely happy, feeling like the king of the world, right? Because I reached my goal of $10,000 in sales, to now being totally depressed and bummed out because I let things fall through the crack. Now, if you guys have ever had anything fall through the cracks before because you were overwhelmed or you had too much on your plate, go ahead and type in yes in the chat box. Okay, yes, absolutely. That's one of the problems when you have the belief that you can handle it all, right? I'm going to be showing you how you can actually, by outsourcing, not just handle it all, but actually have free time to live your life and make more money by having your outsourced employees generate business and income for your company. Now, the normal way of hiring outsourced employees is totally broken. And this is how all these so-called gurus are teaching you how to outsource. All the people who have the so-called experience, the way they're teaching you is totally backwards. And I'm going to show you why. So let's say you say, hey, Gonzalo, I'm going to go out there and I've decided to go out and hire someone. I'm going to outsource. The moment you decide to do that and you post a job to find an employee, let me tell you what happens. The first thing that happens is what I call the attack of the resumes, right? You post a job, and when you post a job, you might get hundreds of people applying to work for you, right? And let's say you get about 300 resumes from people that actually want to work for you. Guess how long it takes for you to go through 300 resumes? All right, go ahead and type that in the chat box. Very good. It takes roughly about 30 to 40 hours of your time to go through 300 resumes, right? Because you have to read the resumes. check the references. It's totally overwhelming. So by the time it takes you to go through 300 resumes, and let's say it takes roughly about 3 weeks to go through them, and you did this because you wanted more free time, right? And you wanted help. It literally becomes your full-time job to go through those resumes. I mean, it's totally crazy. Now, let's say 3 weeks pass by the time you finish going through the resumes, right? Guess what happens? I call this the time gap punishment. Now, because you took 3 weeks to go through those resumes and you took too long, all the good employees were hired by someone else because everyone picks the great people, right? But because you took too long, you miss out on having some of the most amazing candidates. The next problem that you have when you're using resumes to hire people is you get a lot of people who I call looky-loos. These are people who are applying for every job out there, and not because they're serious and they want to work for someone else, but because they want to see how much they're worth in the marketplace. They're just looking around, looky-loos, right? So you end up going through the resumes and wasting your time on people that were really never serious about working for you. Now, the next problem we have is what I call behind the mask. Really, in foreign countries, you have two types of people. In the countries I hire, from the most, this is very common. The first type of person is the person who went out there and created a WordPress blog yesterday. But on their resume, they put there that they are a WordPress ninja expert. And on the other side of the spectrum, you have people who are amazing at what they do, but because their parents taught them to be humbled, instead of putting on their resume they're a 9 or 10 in their skill level, they'll put a 5 because they want to be humble. So guys, if you see someone putting a 5 in their skill level, right, and we see that on their resumes, what do? Yeah, we blow them off, right? We pass over them. We overlook them because we don't think they're an expert. And that's the problem when we're using resumes. And guess what we end up with, right? We end up hiring the liar. We end up hiring the person who exaggerates, right? Who has a day of experience, but on their resume, they say they're fantastic. And now 3 weeks pass by that they've worked with us, right? Now we wasted already 3 weeks of time going through resumes. And now we're spending 2 to 3 weeks of time, right? So they can work with us and we pay them because we're testing them out, but they're no good. And now we have to start the whole process all over again. I mean, guys, if you think this is crazy, type an amen in the chat box. Amen, amen, right? But this is what these so-called experts teach us how to do. It's almost like we're trying to find a needle in a haystack, right? We go through this giant haystack and we're trying to find this one perfect person. And this is the problem when we use resumes to find people. So I'm going to tell you a story. I remember I posted a job a while back and I got roughly about 300 resumes. And I told my wife, honey, I have all these resumes that are coming back to me. So I printed them out and I said, can you go through them for me, right? Let me tell you what happened. 30 minutes later, she comes back into my office. She throws a stack of resumes on my desk and said, if you ever want to sleep with me again, you're never going to give me a stack of resumes like this. Well, you guys know what I did, right? I threw the whole stack of resumes away because some things are more important. And my relationship with my wife is way more important. But I said to myself, there's got to be a better way, right? All these people want to work for us. Why are we doing all the work? So I remember I got an email, right? A motivational quote email that I subscribed to. And I got a quote from a gentleman, his name is Mark Twain. And this is what it said. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to pause and reflect. And I said to myself, wait a minute. Everyone is doing it like this, right? What if I did things a little bit different? So I asked myself, what if I could turn this whole system on its head? And then I asked myself, what if I could use tools, technology, and automation to filter out all the crappy candidates right in the beginning? So if you look at it here, the normal way of doing things is like literally trying to shovel through dirt and rocks to find the gold nugget, right? And that's the crazy thing, guys, That's how 99% of all people out there do it. Now, on the left-hand side, if you notice here, the haystack almost looks like a pyramid. Now, if you take that pyramid and turn it upside down, what does it look like? Let's see who knows. Very good, guys. Very good. You know your salesmanship. It looks like a funnel. Absolutely. And it looks literally like a funnel. So I said to myself, what if I could create a funnel to do all the work for me? So on top of the funnel, my job is to get as many candidates as possible, that when I end up in the bottom, I'm left with 2 to 3 amazing candidates to work for me, right? Now, the most important part of the funnel is to have a job posting that attracts as many people as possible into my funnel. And how do I do that? By having a job title that is benefit oriented. Now, when I say benefit oriented, most people who post a job talk about the company, right? Work for my company, do this, do that. I need an article writer. I need a virtual assistant. Now, if you're looking for a job, really, you're not thinking about the company. You're thinking about yourself. That's why my job posting titles, I talk about the employee. I talk about what a great company it is and how it will benefit for that individual to work for my company. Now, here's an example of mine. Advanced virtual assistant with very good English writing skills wanted. Work for a great company. Weekly pay plus bonuses plus 13th month pay plus sick days plus vacation and holidays. Now, guys, if you're going to work for a company, right, here's a screen of all the job postings, and you're looking right at all these job postings. Which one would you actually apply for? Yeah, you better say the one with a big red arrow, right? Look at all the other ones. Virtual assistant telephone researcher, article writer, inside sales, social media manager, blah, 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 blah. They're all boring. Now, being an employee is not fun. So when you talk about how they're going to benefit, that's how I get so many people clicking on my job posting, right? I want to make sure they click that job posting as much as possible. Now, the next job of your job posting is to look like you're a real, incredible business for virtual employees. Now, think about it, guys. When people are working for you remotely in foreign countries, they don't know if you're a legitimate and real company. So your job is to look like a real company. So I use this one specific technique that actually gets the best candidates to beg to work for you. And guess how I do this, guys? It was such a powerful yet simple technique. I use video. When I use video, I record a short 3-minute to 5-minute video. And you can even outsource the creation of this video that talks about the company, what it's like to work for you, what are the expectations. And when you do a video on a job posting, people are like, wow, this is a real company. They're above everyone else, and no one does videos for job postings, right? I'm gonna teach you how to make these videos for $5. So even if you don't have a camera or don't want to be in front of a camera, you can outsource that part. So when I say I outsource most of my life, I really do. Now, once they go ahead and see that video, I ask them to send their resume to me. And once they send that resume, my system sends them an automated email that thanks them for applying to work for my company. Now, once it sends out that email to them, it says, hey, John, you did a great job. Your resume looks great. And remember, this is completely automated. I would like to invite you to the first phase of our hiring process, which is to have your skills tested. Now, this is without looking at any resumes, and I have them take 4 test tasks that they do for me. Now, the first thing I have them tested for, and this is so powerful, and the one thing I forgot to mention is in these test tasks, I give them 24 hours to complete them. Now, the reason I choose 24 hours is I want to see how well they work under pressure, right? So the first thing I have them test for is an online typing test. The reason I have them take a typing test is I want to see people that can type between 40 to 70 words per minute. And the reason I do this is let me ask you guys, if someone can type 70 words per minute, right? And if they type it correctly, are they going to be familiar with computers? Absolutely, right? Now, I know what some of you guys might say, hey, Gonzalo, I type with 2 fingers. Well, guys, those are not the people we're looking for. Now, if someone's a slow typer, that's fine for them. But for your employees, you want someone who knows computers like their back of the hand, right? And I've discovered when you hire people who can type fast, most likely they're familiar with computers, right? That means they can move faster and they can work faster for you. Now, the second thing I had them do a test on is I had them install a piece of software called Jing. Now, the reason I do this is I want to see how well they can use a piece of software that they've never used before, right? So this shows me how fast they can get up and going in something that they know nothing about. Now, the third thing I had them do is I had them take an online internet speed test. And this is a test that shows me how fast their internet connection is. Now, here's why this is important. If someone is a great employee, right? They could be the greatest employee in the world, but if they have a slow dial-up connection, that's going to slow them down. So I want someone that has a really fast or semi-fast connection because it helps them work faster. And the fourth thing I have them do, and this is so cool, is I have them write a cold email for my company. So I give them a scenario and I give them 3 articles or resources that explains how to write a cold email, also known as a solicitation email. And they go out and create an email that solicits a partnership on behalf of my company. Now, the reason I do this is it shows me how well they comprehend what they read. Number 2, it shows me how well they can apply what they read. And number 3, it shows me how well they have a mastery of the English language. And number 4, it shows me how well they can articulate a message. Once you have this done, you really have a full picture of the person's ability. Now, once they do all the test tasks and those results are submitted to you, the system sends out another automated email thanking them for completing phase 1 and invites them to phase 2 of the hiring process. Now, phase 2 is really similar to phase 1, and they have to complete this task also in 24 hours. And really, I do this because I want to see how well they can handle pressure. Now, let me ask you guys a question, which will show you why I do this. Have you ever hired someone and they work really well for about a week or 2, but then out of the blue, they disappear? So if you ever had someone disappear out of the blue, put yes in the chat box. Ken, David, Mary. Okay, so it's happened to several of you guys. This is because some people get ashamed that they can't do a task or they can't handle the pressure. So instead of communicating back to you, they just disappear. So what I like to do is I like to do it the way the military does it, which is give them the pressure ahead of time. Because the people who stick with it are the people who are not going to disappear, right? They're not going to disappear when things get tough, right? When they can't handle a task. So in phase 2, the questions are very similar to the first set of questions. But one of the tasks I give them, right, is I give them a scenario of a customer who's really pissed off at us because of customer service. So I let them respond to the customer. Now, by doing this, I have them research about my product, right? And then I see how well they can research, right, about providing good customer service. Now, the great thing about this is the person who can do this well, it really shows that they can put themselves in the shoes of the customer, right? And you really can see the people that don't need to be handheld every step of the way. So once a person completes this test task, you get a really good picture of the winners. Now, remember, I haven't had to do any of this. This is all done through an automated process. So once they answer the second set of questions, that's when I get involved. Once I get all the results, I have a checklist that shows me how to grade my candidates, right? Kind of like the grades that you get in school with, A, B, C, right? And after about roughly 10 minutes, I've graded all the candidates, and that completes the first 2 phases of the hiring process. Now, I went from 40 hours of going through resumes to roughly 10 minutes of time for an automated system that does all the filtering out for you guys. This is literally earth-shattering. When I first went through this process, I was like, wow, this is amazing. So you go from having to spend your full time doing this for 3 weeks to find a perfect person to roughly about 10 minutes of time. I mean, I was blown away by this whole process. Now, once I grade my candidates, I invite them to the last part, which is the Skype interview. So I use Skype chat, and I literally have a template which you can copy and paste every question that you need to ask them. So when you ask them a question and they answer it, you copy and paste the next question. Now, I've made this so simple. I have my oldest son, Timothy. He's 14 years old. He does the interviews for me. Now, the reason I do this is I want to teach him how to actually be a business owner. So it's so easy. Literally, a teenager can do the interviews for you. So some of the questions are like, do you have another job? Do you go to school? What skill sets do you have? I even have questions that tell you their weaknesses, right? They tell themselves. Not only that, I even have a template in there that negotiates their salaries for you. So you don't even have to do that yourself. Now, one of the things you have to know about me is that most of the people that work for me make between $250 to $300 a month on a full-time basis. Now, in their country, that's a great salary. Now, so that I don't get taken advantage of, right, I use the script to negotiate the salaries for me, right? Now, the script does all the work for me. Now, once you do all the interviews, which take you about between 10 and 15 minutes max, and you find the person which you like the most, that's when you extend a job offer. Now, I even have a template for you to do that for you, right? To actually make an offer to someone. Now, in the job offer, it covers things like, what they can expect, the holidays, what kind of work environment they should have at their home, right? The hours they should keep, all the kind of things that most people, don't think about. I have a template that does all this for you. Now, the powerful thing about this is I'm going to share this a little later on in the webinar, but I have my employees actually making me money instead of costing me money. That's why I love to outsource, right? Because it's no longer a cost center. So let me do a quick recap of the system so you get a clear picture, right? So at the top of the funnel, you have a job posting that has a headline, right? That attracts as many people as possible, which is benefit oriented, right? Then you have a video, right, that shows them that you're a real and credible business, right? Now, once they send their resume to you to apply, the system sends an automated email back to them, inviting them to phase 1 of the hiring process, which is to have their skills tested. Now, once their skills are tested and the results are submitted to you, the system sends back to them another email inviting them to phase 2, which is the customer service question and also some other questions that are in there, which really shows you the people that can think for themselves and go beyond the call of duty, right? And those that can handle the pressure and always deliver on time, and they never disappear on you. And once they complete the second set of test tasks, you're ready to grade your candidates. And you then invite your favorites to the Skype interview. Now, I thought this whole process was amazing. I was like, wow, Gonzalo, this, blew me away, right? It made my life so much easier, but there was still a missing piece. And let me tell you what happened. A couple years ago, I had an employee, and her name was Joy, and she was amazing. She was the type of person, that in the first 2 weeks, I was like, wow, she did great work. She did really well. But then I started noticing something weird, right? The first week, she was great. The second week, but then over time, she would say something like, oh, I'm sick today, so I can't work. I said, okay, no problem, take a couple of days off. Then the next week, her kid got sick. And, it was happening very often. And that feeling you get in your stomach when you know there's something wrong, right? That's what happened to me, right? She went and requested some additional time off. And for some reason, I decided to check her Facebook account, right? Her Facebook wall. And I noticed that in her wall, and her comments were made public, She was bragging to her friends how she was managing 2 full-time jobs at the same time, right? When I saw that, I got sick to my stomach. Then I got pissed off. And I told myself I was never, ever going to let this happen again because I was taken for a fool, right? I gave her the benefit of the doubt. And literally, I even gave her extra money to help her out with her kid, right? She was never sick. Her kid was never sick. She was just juggling 2 full-time jobs. Now, the thing is, when you work for me, I pay your salary and bonuses. I expect you to only have 1 full-time job. So I went out and tried to find the perfect solution, right? I looked for software that kind of tracks people, right? But the issue with this type of software, right, gives you charts and numbers, right? Like this person had Microsoft Word open for 8 hours, right? And they also had Photoshop open for 3 hours, right? Now, if they're working for someone else, it doesn't matter how long it tells me how long they had Photoshop open, right? Right? It doesn't mean that they're actually working for me, right? Now, there are some other things out there like Upwork, which shows you a screenshot every, maybe 15 or 20 minutes, right? But they have the ability to actually change and delete their screenshot, right? So you may not actually know if they're working for you, right? So I couldn't find a good solution. Well, I love to watch videos like movies and National Geographic. And have you ever seen those time-lapse videos, the videos that, play really fast and fast forward, so it shows you like a plant growing really fast? Well, I went to my programmer and said, I would love the ability to record someone's desktop while they work during the day for 8 hours. But instead of watching it like at the regular pace, I would love to be able to fast forward it and watch it really fast, like a time-lapse video. And then if I want, I could slow it down. So pretty much I wanted to be able to watch 8 hours of video, maybe in a couple of minutes. So after I requested this from the programmer, I waited a couple of weeks, right? And my programmer comes back and says, Gonzalo, I have the solution. And that's what I want to show you right now.
Hi everyone, welcome to JoyProof, the only tool that guarantees you get all the hours you're paying for from your remote employees. I just wanted to do a quick demo to show you how this software works and how easy it is to use. Your employee will be able to install JoyProof in less than 2 minutes on any computer. Once they install it, they'll click on the JoyProof shortcut icon to open the program. Before they use it for the first time, they'll choose the default settings that you want. First, they'll choose the video capture rate that you want, which will record either 1, 5, or 10 frames per minute. The higher the number, the more detailed the video will be. So we recommend using either 5 or 10. Unless your employee's internet connection is extremely slow, then you can have them choose 1. Next, they'll choose the private folder location that you want the videos to go to using your free cloud storage provider, either Dropbox, Google Drive, or Microsoft SkyDrive. After the settings are chosen, all they have to do is click the Start Working button and the timer will begin, showing that JoyProof is recording their computer screen while they work. When they're done working, they click the Stop Working button and the JoyProof video is automatically sent to your private folder. You can access your employee videos anytime from anywhere. Just go to your private folder and begin watching. You can increase the speed of the video playback if you just want a quick overview of your employee's workday, or decrease the speed of the playback to see more details. At the end of the video, you can see how long they actually worked by looking at the JoyProof timer. And there you have it. You can watch 8 hours of work in as little as 3 minutes and never again wonder if you're getting all the hours you're paying for from your remote employees.
Now, guys, when I got that back, I was like, holy moly, this is amazing, right? It literally blew me away. This is exactly what I wanted. Now, once I implemented, this solution on my, with my employees, their productivity went up 300%. So literally, it was, if their workday was 8 hours, it was like now they were actually working 24 hours a day. That's how much more productive they became. I no longer had to worry about whether I was getting all the hours I was paying for. Not only that, I had video, right, that now showed me exactly how they were doing things. So now I don't have to guess how long something takes, how they're doing things. I can just watch the video. And the great thing is you can watch 8 hours of video in 3 minutes, right? And because they click start working and stop working, there's no issues with privacy. It removes all their distractions. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the gentleman. His name is Tim Ferriss, but he is like a automation, systemization guru. He is a guy behind the 4-Hour Work Week. In that book, he talks about something called the Hawthorne Principle. The Hawthorne Principle states that the moment that people know that they're being supervised or viewed, their behavior changes, right? They walk a little faster. Everything changes. Now, have you ever driven and seen a cop behind you? You then become a really good driver. Well, guess what, guys? The same thing happens to your employees. Now, guys, I promised you I was going to go ahead and show you how to get your employees to pay for themselves. And then I was going to share with you how I use my employees and how they can make you a ton of money. But before I do that, I want to share a little bit about our program. So in business, there are 2 things you can do, right? You can actually try to figure out something for yourself and take years of trials and error and figure it out. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's not very efficient and it can cost you a lot of time and money. But the smarter thing to do, and I believe, is actually learning from people who are experts and can give you the tools that they develop over years so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's almost like buying a car. It's a lot easier to go out and buy the car that's stable, right? Instead of trying to build your own car from scratch. So if you're the type of person that likes to learn exactly how other people have done it, right, other experts, I'm going to share with you a little bit about my program. And later on, we're going to be talking about how to get outsourced employees to pay for themselves. The system is called Outsource All-Star Automation, which is how we find, hire, and manage your outsourced employees. And then JoyProof is the monitoring software that allows you to monitor your employees to make sure you're getting all the hours you're paying for. Now, one thing I wanted to talk to you about was the importance of outsourcing. And it's because the one resource we can never get back in our life is our time. Now, we're all guilty of this, right? But have you guys ever bought a course or a system or had something to do that you didn't do because you didn't have enough time? That's the beauty about outsourcing. You see, for example, I had a customer recently who had this, who bought this system on how to rank videos on YouTube. And he bought it, and it's been sitting on his hard drive for 4 months. And he knew he had to go out there and sooner or later apply it, right? So he went out and bought the system, and hired his outsourced employee, right, his first one. And that outsourced employee had the video marketing system implemented for him in a week. And he started getting sales because of it. And that's the great thing when you have an outsourced employee, right? Because they have to report to you, right? They have to do the work. So all the things you need to get done, right, get done because someone else has to do it, right? That's their job. The problem is when you are responsible to manage your own time, that's when things don't get done. How many of us know exactly how to lose weight, right? We need to exercise more and eat healthier, right? We all know this, but how many people actually get this done? This is why I'm so passionate about outsourcing, because I know it's changed my life and it's changed the lives of thousands of people. Even Dean shares that most of the things that he gets done, right, he's able to do them because he has a team behind him. Now, I'm going to tell you something about myself. One thing I know about me is that my dad always works 7 days a week because he was an immigrant to this country, right, to the United States, right? He worked a lot. Now, I do appreciate that about him, but the problem is I didn't really know him growing up, right? I have 3 kids, right? A 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 12-year-old, right? Now, one of the reasons I outsourced is because I didn't want to be like my dad, meaning I wanted to be around for my kids, right? We all have this idea that someday when we reach the certain level of success that we want in our lives, we will take time out to eat clean, right? To exercise, to take that dream vacation, to spend more time with our spouse, to do the things that we love. And until you take radical action, we're always kidding ourselves. That's what happened when I first started outsourcing. When I saw people do things for me that brought money into the company and happened while I was sleeping, my whole life changed. And now the lives of thousands of people have changed because of it. And I'm going to be sharing with you, even if you have the excuse, Gonzalo, I don't have that much work to give them right now. I'm going to be showing you in a couple of minutes some techniques on how to get your outsourced employees to actually make you money over and over again instead of costing you money. But before I do that, I want to share with you a little bit more information about the system. In Module 1, I show you and give you the tools for the job posting. I show you exactly what to post. I give you the scripts so you don't have to come up with them yourself. And what are the things you have to put in the job posting to attract as many people as possible. I even provide you the autoresponder templates to get people through your funnel. In Module 2, I provide you the test to test their skill level that weeds out all the people that are no good and filters out the people that don't go the extra mile. In Module 3, I provide you with a task, especially the customer service task, to find real talent, right? Those people that can think for themselves, that come up with solutions even before you ask them. The kind of employees that you end up saying to yourself, how did I live my life without them? In Module 4, I provide you with the templates on how to grade your candidates and how to filter out people. And I give you the templates to invite them to the Skype interview so you don't even have to come up with that yourself. This is truly an outsourced way of hiring outsourced employees. In Module 5, I give you the Skype interview questions that literally a teenager does, right? So it's literally dummy proof. You can actually copy and paste each question. I even give you the template on how to negotiate salaries for your employees so that you don't even have to have that awkward conversation that people have about money. And I even show you the simple trick that shows you how to get 2 candidates for the price of 1. So imagine you have 2 candidates that look really good. I give you a template on how to get these 2 employees to work for you for 1 month for half their salary. So if you're unsure about which one to hire, they actually both prove themselves to you, and whichever one works out best is the one you keep. Or you can actually decide to keep both of them. In Module 6, I provide you with a template on how to make a job offer, right? So that they accept it, it goes over their salary, their compensation, what holidays they get off, how they get paid, when they get paid, how to work, what's expected from them, right? All this is included for you, all done for you, so that you don't have to think about these things. I even provide you with the modern software JoyProof that you can install in as little as 2 minutes. You can watch 8 hours of video in as little as 3 minutes. And you can watch them from any computer, tablet, or phone. So it doesn't matter if you're on vacation, you can actually check on your employees. Now, I also provide you with some additional bonuses. The first bonus I provide you is my remote employee welcome package. Now, I want you to get how powerful this is. This package welcomes the employee to your company. It tells them how to set up company email, how to set up all the tools that are needed, how to install JoyProof on their computer, all the things that they have to do when a new employee gets hired. I give you a system so that you don't have to do any of it yourself. You can even customize it to fit your company. It even talks about your company culture and what's expected from them. The second bonus I provide is the best outsourcing sites roadmap. I show you which sites you should hire people from and which sites are best, but also more importantly, I tell you which countries you should never hire people from and you should avoid like the plague. We also provide you with lifetime access to the Facebook private group. Everyone in the group interacts with each other and shares with each other best practices, right? Imagine being part of a group that shares how they outsource, what kind of systems and automated procedures they use to make outsourcing easier. Imagine having a community that actually shares best techniques with each other. And these are some of the things people say about the system. Shelly says here, thank you, Gonzalo. I've seen a huge increase in the work my VAs have been getting done in just a couple of days since they started using JoyProof. Justin says, well, a month later, I've got 2, and one of them is in 9.9 English typing and on the phone. wants to do appointment setting and willing to do for $350 for the first month. Tom says here, system has been perfect and so simple to use. Couldn't thank you enough. Now the system has two options. Option one is you have the outsourced all-star automation system with 3 lifetime licenses to JoyProof for $497. And option two is the outsourced all-star automation system with 10 lifetime licenses to JoyProof for $697. But not only that, I'm also including a free 60-minute phone consult with me on how to implement outsourcing in your business, and then how to get your employees to pay for themselves, which I'm going to be talking about that in the next couple of minutes. So here are some things that people have said about the one-on-one consult with me. Kim said, yesterday I had my one-on-one with Gonzalo, and it solidified that JoyProof was the right decision. Rarely in this internet space have I seen someone whose product not only does exactly what it says, but more. However, I get it when you spend some time with the man behind the product. Terry says here, we found the same thing with our conversation with Gonzalo. My partner Anthony and I had huge breakthrough moments and have been implementing the ideas. I think this has been one of the most valuable purchases that I've ever made. Terry Rose says here, this program has been phenomenal, and I really appreciate all the little details that are often left out in other training programs. I used to hope that things will work out. Now I have a system that tells me how. Jonah says here, the training is step by step, and that is rare. Thanks for all the details. You can now go to myjoyproof.com. I'm providing a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you don't like the sound of my voice, and I'm sorry, I am from Argentina and I have an accent, but for any reason, if you do not enjoy the course or the software and it doesn't blow your mind, you can ask for a full refund, no questions to ask. But guys, you're going to be blown away. This is going to be the moment you remember that your business changed forever. And I'm going to be going over some additional bonuses I'm providing. And then I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how I get my outsourced employees paid for themselves. And I'm also going to be showing you some additional information. And then what we're going to be doing is a Q&A with all you guys, right? So first, I'm going to be showing you here the Facebook group so you can see all the members that we have in the group. Pages and pages of people interacting, helping each other, sharing best practices. We have some of the top marketers in the space using the system. So you'll be able to interact with them. And once you get into the program, you'll be able to see all the modules here and get access to them. I'm now going to show you exactly where the bonuses are located. I also provide additional training as bonuses. So if you wanted to test and select programmers, I cover that. If you want to find out how to write job postings for different positions, or if you want to go out and test and select graphic artists, we have that. I tell you how to pay your employees. Not only that, I show you how to hire great writers. I also provide you 6 weeks of additional bonuses. In week 1, I talk about the Merlin principle, which is one of the most powerful business principles I ever learned. In week 2, I show you how to train your outsourced employees. In week 3, I show you how to manage your outsourced team and how to hire project managers. Now in week 5 and 6, which are some of my favorites, I show you how to outsource your lead generation, right? How to get your employees to bring business to your company. And now I'm going to go ahead and talk about how I use my outsourced employees and how to get your outsourced employees to pay for themselves. And then I'm going to open up to take some questions. So this is the mistake that happens the most. And this is what happens. When you go out and hire outsourced employees, let me tell you exactly what happens. You go out and hire an amazing outsourced employee and you get very excited, and usually within the first 2 weeks of hiring that person, you get a little bit overwhelmed. And the reason you get overwhelmed is because they finished all the tasks you gave them so fast. So the next problem that you have is, wow, I need to figure out other tasks I can give them so I can keep them busy, right? And that's the mistake that most people make. Now, when I go out and hire outsourced employees, the first 2 to 3 weeks when I hire them, I actually hire them to generate business for me. And let me tell you a little bit on how I do that. So I don't know if you guys know this, But most people out there love to complain and share their problems on social media, right? They'll go out on Facebook and they'll share exactly like, hey, here's the problem I have with this. Or they'll go on Twitter and ask questions about this, right? So what my guys do in the first 3 weeks is I train them on how to actually sell to people who are complaining about their life and business on Facebook and Twitter. So here's a scenario. There's a company out there called Sitter City. It's a website that shows parents how to find a babysitter. Every time someone signs up with them, they'll pay you between $40 to $50. So my guys go on Twitter, and every time someone says something like, my babysitter canceled on me, right? Does anyone have a recommendation? Or someone says, hey, looking for a babysitter. My guys will go out there and get notified on Twitter, and they'll post a link with something that says, hey, if you're looking for a babysitter, here's a great site to find babysitters. And boom, they sign up and we get paid $50, right? Another scenario is, if you guys are familiar with a company called HostGator, which is a web hosting company, they'll pay you roughly about $100 for every person that signs up, even if they sign up for a $3 hosting account. So when someone says something like, hey, I'm looking for a great web hosting company, does anybody have any recommendations? My guys will post and say, hey, here's a great hosting company we use. It's called HostGator. By the way, if you buy through our link, our graphic designer will design a free logo for your website. And then my guys will go to Fiverr, pay someone $5 to have web logos designed for the website, and then we get paid $100 for getting them to sign up with a hosting company. So I do these types of things with my outsourcers for the first 2 to 3 weeks, because when they're not busy with their regular work, they always default back to tasks that actually pay for themselves and make me money. So guys, here's a couple more examples. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a company called GetResponse. They are an autoresponder company, meaning a company that sends out your email newsletters for you. A couple months ago, their website went down. Now, one person could send out any newsletters, right? So there were thousands of people complaining about that on Facebook and Twitter, right? So it was costing them a lot of money. They were losing customers. But my guys started tweeting and messaging people saying, hey, if you have a problem with GetResponse, here's another company who does email newsletters for you, right? They deliver newsletters with autoresponders. So you never have to worry about putting your eggs in one basket. So you can have 2 companies instead of 1, right? And we'll provide you a free training video on how to switch over. And then we give them a buy link. We were getting hundreds and hundreds of leads because people were frustrated, right? There's an abundance of things like this that you can do. And I show you my system, how you can use your outsourced employees to generate leads for your business. Now, most people don't outsource this way, right? So let me ask you guys a question. Do you see
Hey, Online Empire Academy. This is Dean Soto, founder of the Online Empire Academy.